to all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave parapeeps on this side of the veil, welcome. This is Shawn Whittington's Paranormal Ministry Live 2.0. I'm your host, Shawn Whittington. I am a seminarian in the United States Old Catholic Church, and I'm coming to you live from my haunted house, my very haunted house, where I live. Got a great show today, and I know that's why you all tuned in. My guest is in the green room. I'm going to bring her right out. I'm so excited to have her here, as many of you who've reached out to me this week are also excited that she's here. Let's check the prayer urn. Dorothy H. from California. Hi, Dorothy. I am the home health caregiver for my two elderly parents. They are both ill right now, and I need a prayer for them and for me for strength. Dorothy, you're going to make me cry. You've come to the right place, and I am definitely going to offer up a nice prayer for you. Hang in there. You know, I have an old saying. The last 2 years of my father's life, or actually, yeah, last year or so of my father's life, last couple of years of my mother's life, may they rest in peace. They're both in heaven. I split home hospice care duties with my younger brother in taking care of them. And that is probably one of the toughest jobs on the face of the earth. So hang in there. Many days doing that, I would feel like I was drowning. And I used to come up with this saying. I used to tell myself, don't sink today. Today you will be unsinkable. So do that. Every day, look in the mirror and tell yourself, today I am unsinkable. I will not sink. I'm going to stay afloat and get through this rough sea today. If that particular day seems to be bringing you some rough seas in terms of taking care of your parents, but that's a rough gig. So yes, let me find a nice prayer for you. Okay, this is a good one. I like this one. I offer this prayer up for Dorothy and her parents in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Sacred Heart of Jesus, I come to you and I ask for the gift of restored health, that I may serve you more faithfully and love you more sincerely. I want to be well if it is your will and redounds to your glory. If, on the other hand, it is your will that my sickness continue, I want to bear it with patience. If in your divine wisdom I am to be restored to health and strength, I will strive to show my gratitude by a consistent and faithful servant, rendered to you, my loving Savior and Redeemer and my God. Amen. I'm going to put this prayer in here in my prayer book, Dorothy. And do me a favor, keep me posted on how things are going with you and your parents. And I know you didn't ask for this, but I'm going to, after the show, I'm going to go into the room with all the candles that I have lit for people. I'm going to light a candle for you and your parents later. And that candle will burn until it's done burning. Okay? God bless you. Let's check the mail bag. I do have one in here, don't I? Yep. Ann F. from Arizona. Hi, Ann. Just got your second book. Well, thank you. I I do think it might be scarier than the first. I need a refresher on how to use the items in the house blessing kit. I am so sorry. You know, so many people reach out to me with that request. And I'll send you some instructions. But for all of you out there going, yeah, what's in there? I just talked to a lady this morning, didn't know what the Palo Santo wood was. Okay, there's salts in there, blessed salts. They're a mixture of kosher, sea, and Dead Sea salts. I think there's probably a little bit of pink Himalayan and some Hawaiian black salt in there too. Highly powerful, blessed salts in there. You want to sprinkle the salts. There's not much of it. Sprinkle the salts on the windowsills and on the ground of every door that leads outside. Occasionally, you can sprinkle some on yourself. That's the blessed salts. The holy oil in there. It's actually, you don't get the holy oil. You get my Mojo Exorcism Strength Holy Water, which has some holy blessed anointing oils in it, along with probably some more salt. Um, but it's mainly holy water. There's not a whole lot of that either, so you want to put some on your finger, bless yourself a lot. Put some on your thumb, physically touch your walls and make a cross. And that's what you do with the holy water. What else is in there? I know that there's Palo Santo wood. Use it the same way you would sage. Light the tip of the stick. Palo Santo translated means holy wood. Everything I send you in this kit is blessed. Light the tip of the Palo Santo wood. Let it burn for a moment or two. Blow it out. It'll start to smoke. Walk through the house and get the smoke everywhere. I think I also throw in some sage in there, some blessed white sage, maybe some sweetgrass. Same thing. Light the end of it. Let the flame burn for a few moments. Blow it out. Walk through the house and get the smoke everywhere. You know, smoke yourself out too. If you've got very sensitive um, smoke alarms, turn them off or don't get the smoke right near them. Or go to a spiritual store and get you some sage mist. Put some holy water in it, and you can spray your sage mist around, and you won't have the smoke. And some people are allergic to the smoke, and they have sensitive smoke alarms. So there you go. I think that's everything in the kit. There's blessed metals in there. You can wear them, or you can give them as gifts. That's what blessed religious items are for, to gift to somebody that you think might need it or wear them. And I think that's it in the kits. Sage, Palo Santo, holy water, blessed salts, and some blessed metals. But I'm going to start sending instructions out with my kits for that. If there's anything you want to know about my wife and I, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. If you go there to visit, keep in mind my wife and I don't charge for our ministry work, helping people with their paranormal issues. So I know times are tough, brothers and sisters, but if you notice the donate button and you're able to do so, click on it and send my ministry in a small donation. I promise you, it'll be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts. And trust me, we'll put it to good use. If you need spiritual counseling, I'm also a certified spiritual advisor, intuitive coach, listener. I'm a great listener. My motto is you talk, I listen, no judgment. There's a place where you can make an appointment to speak with me about spiritual issues, not paranormal, but spiritual issues if you need someone to talk to. But don't leave the website without navigating over to the page called Introduction to Spiritual Warfare Course/book. On that page, you will find both my books, God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry, and God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry 2. If you haven't done your good deed for the day yet, part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my books goes to support stjude.org, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Nevada, and the ASPCA. How cool is that? You get to help some of the neediest children on the planet and the animals too. That's very cool. If you get the book at Amazon, it's a little less expensive. If you buy them off the website, they leave my office here. I autograph them, and they come enclosed in this house blessing kit that people don't know how to use. That I'm going to start putting instructions in. Um, Scroll a little further down, you'll see the Introduction to Spiritual Warfare course. I offer a 12-week online college level course, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare. That is the course for all you true warriors for Christ out there that want to have more knowledge when it comes to drawing your line in the sand, making a stand, circling the wagons, and putting up a good fight. Um, Perhaps the fight of your life against, God forbid, true evil if it ever comes calling. That's the course for you. No, it's not going to teach you how to be an exorcist. That's a completely different calling. But this course will teach you what I've learned and what I've seen through my eyes and how I've dealt with it and what works for me when it comes to, warding this stuff off so you don't have to go into full on battle. So you can enroll in the course there at the website. If you want more information about the course before making that type of commitment, there is a Shawn Whittington's Introduction to Spiritual Warfare course Facebook page. You can go there, read about it, or just reach out to me. I'm approachable. I'm easy to find and get a hold of, and we'll talk about it and see if the course is right for you. Most importantly, please keep all of my former, current, and future students in your prayers. Thank you very much. Okay, the moment of truth, the reason why you all tuned in. I love her. I respect her. She's so cool. Um, I was on her show recently, and she was just a wonderful host, and I just couldn't wait to have her on my show. So, I mean, I could go on and on and on about her resume, but you all know her and love her as executive producer and host of both Real Ghost Stories Online and the Grave Talks podcasts. Please let's give a big, warm Paranormal Ministry family welcome to the one and only Carol Hughes.
Dang, that was a really nice intro. I don't know if I was deserving of all that, but thank you, Shawn.
So deserving of it. First of all, this is what I'm going to throw at you. In stalking you a little bit this past week for this short 1 hour interview, um, you have so much to be proud of. First of all, I can't find one person that has anything bad to say about you. I don't go looking for that, but usually when I start, stalking a person, I might find at least one or two people that, you know, aren't a big fan. You have nothing but big fans out there, followers. I think one of your pages for one of your podcasts has like 70,000 followers, and I think the other
Yeah.
one has 60,000. Come on, I've got like 300 followers on my YouTube channel. It's been on there since 2015.
I'm gonna have to say that's all Tony Bruschi. He started the both the podcasts. He and I worked together in radio for quite a while, quite a few years. He moved away, started the podcast, and then he got so busy doing other types of podcasting with true crime and stuff that he's like, "Is there any way you could help me with these two?" And I'm like, "Yeah." What, I talk about paranormal stuff all day? I'm down with that. And so, he worked really hard to build both those shows up. So I just feel lucky to be able to jump on and be part of something like that. It's very special.
Well, you do a great job. The shows are great.
Thank
If
you.
anybody wants to go to either one of the YouTube channels for either one of those shows or even the websites, you've got a ton of shows on there.
There's so much
Um,
content.
yeah, a lot of content. I mean, if anybody goes there, just have the time to to surf around through there and find some good interviews. It's just really really cool. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud to be your friend. Proud to know you, and maybe I can. The
I
more
feel the
of your
same.
the more of your shows. I don't have a clue what I'm doing. So the more shows like yours I
Do
listen
any
to
of
and
it?
watch, I learn things. So that's a good thing. So you've got another fan and follower in me, and I made myself a promise today. We were talking a little bit about this in the green room before you came out. Um, I'm terrible at looking at I'm so into talking to my guest and I get into the conversations and listening to them. I'm terrible at looking at the chat room and seeing what people are saying or asking or commenting. If you happen to notice a comment that you want to address, feel free to do so. But what I did was this show has taken on a life of its own. And whenever I start promoting a guest, people, fans and followers of theirs, start sending in questions for the guest. Oh, if you get it, Rev, if you get a chance to ask Carol this, would you? So I promised myself I was going to make a concerted effort to stick to the list of your that your fans and followers have sent in, and
I'm a
I'll
little
just
scared. We'll see how this goes.
okay. So here we go. Um, well, actually, I lied to you. The first one is me. For
Okay.
me, how is your fur babies doing? I saw you in your bio. You have Rizzo and Izzy,
Yes,
and
my
your two
cats.
cats. And I have five outdoor cats. I just recently, I have never, my day job, my part-time day job is a veterinary technician. So most of my adult life, I've worked with animals. I'm a big animal lover. Um, I moved into this house with. I can never remember not having an animal all my life, but I moved into this house with three mastiffs. They eventually went on to heaven. We got three more mastiffs, and eventually, just recently, said goodbye to my last mastiff about 2 weeks ago, who went to heaven. But I have these
That's
five outdoor
hard.
cats. Oh, I have these five outdoor cats that adopted us. We don't know where they came from. We love them. They love us. But I don't want cats in the house. So we put carriers out there and food and water, and they got protection from the elements, and they've got the full run of the front and backyard and the roof. But talk to me about Izzy and Rizzo. Introduce them
Well,
to me.
I'll tell you before I mention them. That's so funny because just yesterday I got an Amazon delivery for a feral cat house for the cat that has moved in on my front porch, and he's out there sleeping right now. And my goal is to get him to the vet at some point, but he's just got to get used to it. So that's really funny because I just bought him a little house. But my cats, I had a dog for 16 and a half years and I lost him last summer. I've never not had a dog, so this has been a weird year.
Yeah,
But
me
I
too.
feel like when the time's right, they always come to you. And and so in the meantime, I've got my 2 cats, and when I started working from home, podcasting 100% of the time, it's my full-time job. I was like, this is the weirdest thing. I have no coworkers. Because you're used to gossiping and you have food day and you do things with your coworkers after work. And I'm like, I have no coworkers. So I assigned them job duties, and one's the HR director and one's finance director. They really don't work, but at least they have titles. So it's kind of so I call them my coworkers. And then some days we do food day, and it's like they get treats and I get whatever I want because we're not going to eat the same things. But they're a joy to have around. I can't imagine life without animals, and that's one thing when you and I talked that I'm going to tell everybody because when I talked to Shawn and I set up the interview, I'm like, I am so nervous to talk to him. And I have interviewed so many people over the years, but he's literally nervous about talking to you. And then as the conversation went on, I'm like, I love this guy, and you rescue animals and I rescue animals and you donate to St. Jude and I donate to St. Jude. So it was really cool.
I always tell people that if you it's true that everything that they buy, most of the proceeds of everything that's purchased off of my website goes to those organizations. But um, you don't wait for that. You sign up and you become a member, and regardless of whether I sell another book or get another student to enroll in my course or anybody calling me to make an appointment to speak with me, that I could get none of that again ever. But every month I make that payment to these organizations because I'm passionate about it and I believe in them, and it is what it is. So, but yeah, everything that comes in through the website goes right there because those are just. I mean, can you think of anything more important than children with cancer? I can't. I mean, my
Right.
wife's a three-time cancer survivor, but children seems brutal. I can't even watch the commercials. Animals, I deal with them all the time. And in matter of fact, I worked at a specialty center for many years in the oncology department. So every animal that came had cancer and every animal was dying. And it was
That'd be
brutal.
hard.
So I'm very into that. And, I can feel the spirits laughing at me when I had this conversation at dinner the other night with Sharon, and I can feel the spirits in here laughing at me when I say we're done for a while because I'm just the cats are cool. I love them. I go out there. They all act like dogs. They follow me around when I do a little bit of yard work. You know, they even when Sharon goes to work in the morning, they'll run down the street following her car for a block or two. Then they realize
Oh,
she's not taking us, so they come back to the yard. But
that's sweet.
they're all great, and but I'm dogs, and I'm like you right now. Is a weird time. I've never not had
Yeah.
a dog in the house, but I'm definitely not over losing the last one. But you know what? If you start to get too emotional about this, you can stop talking about it and we'll move on. I know there's so many people out there. Believe it or not, people reach out to me suffering from the loss of a pet, unlike anything
Mhm.
they've ever experienced, even if they've had like family members that have recently passed on or deathly ill. It's the animals. And I know that I still have their spirit. All of their ashes come home here. I've got like a shrine to all my animals in one of the rooms. I know they're still here. I feel
Yeah.
them. I hear them. I see them.
Well,
Talk to people about how to get over. If you have anything you can add about dealing with that grief.
oh, And if I can share a quick story though, before that, and
Please.
I don't think I told you this when you and I were talking that day, and I don't want to get all choked up, but it was last year when I lost my dog, and it was the toughest decision to make, even though you know it's the most humane and kind thing you can do for your animal when it's that time to give them that peace and help them pass on and surrounded by love. And that's what I, and in my home, and that's what I wanted. So, you know, what's the right day? And I don't want to make anybody cry, but this is really sweet. So that morning I woke up and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I'm laying on the floor with him and I said, I don't know how to do this. I need a sign. I cannot do this without a sign. So my two cats, Izzy and Rizzo, this was before they were HR and finance directors. So they decided they wanted to go outside and they only get to go outside with me. So it's only supervised visits outside. So it was a really nice day morning. And so it's about 7 in the morning. And I went outside and I sat on the step on my back patio and I just burst into tears. And I look up and this hummingbird flies up and it was maybe 3 feet from me, just a little past my arm. And it's looking at me. And I was like, what is that hummingbird look? Oh my God. And it hit me. I just asked for a sign and this hummingbird flew up. And so I've always thought,
I'm going to
the
look that
sign
up
is
after we have this. I'm going to look up the meaning of the hummingbird. I bet you it's probably incredible.
it is. And I don't remember all the things because I was like dealing with a lot of grief when I first shared the story, but people reached out and it's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. And I've seen them 3 times since. And it's the weirdest thing. They just fly up and they look at me and then they fly off. And that's never happened in my life. So I think signs like that are something that it's a confirmation of what you're doing is the right thing. And so, with your grief, I always say you can, you'll get a sign. It might not be the huge rainbow that's a perfect rainbow. It might not be the hummingbird flying up. It could be something small, but be on the lookout for that sign from that loved one. And I truly believe a pet can give you a sign.
Oh yeah.
I just believe I say goodnight to him every night. I say, watch over us because I know you do a great job at that. And so I just think grief when you lose a pet, it's deep and it's traumatizing. It can be very traumatizing. And I think that you have to go through it. Grief is something I always say you can't go around grief. You have to go through it. Oh, Michelle, I am a huge animal lover, as you can tell, both of us are.
Yeah,
But I
it's
think the grief,
brutal.
you have to go through it. And if you don't see, look at that. Hummingbirds symbolize a loved one that's passed is still around
Oh, there
you.
you go. Thank you, Angela. Wow. They up.
So what I
See,
did was I went on Etsy. I found the most beautiful picture of a hummingbird and I put it above my bed. So every night when I go to bed, I have the hummingbird above me and it just kind of gave me peace. I there's just and every time I walk in my room, that's the first thing you see is the hummingbird. And so I just think grief is hard, but like I said, you can't go around grief. You can only go through
yeah,
grief.
you got to go
Because if
through it.
you try going around grief, it'll catch up with you. And it's hard. And you got to let yourself have all the feelings. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I know I've told this story before, so I apologize to anybody listening who's probably heard this about the 50th time. But I remember my wife and I, the last time we went to the Highland Games out here, we were all decked out in our family, Scottish clam tartans, and we're walking around. Nobody knows who I am, and some woman that I don't even know walks up to me and says, I need to stop and say something to you. You don't know me, I don't know you, and I don't know if you believe in psychics. I'm a psychic, and I didn't let on to her who I was. And she goes, I've never seen anything like this before. You are being followed by the largest group of spirit animals I've ever seen. And I just wanted you to know that. And I knew right then what she was talking about. I know that it's probably all the animals I've ever owned. Um, and I always think of this. I think it was Will Rogers who said, it could be another writer, but I think Will Rogers once said um, something like, if animals aren't in heaven, I want to go where they're at.
Right. I think
I
that
think it's
is a Will Rogers.
yeah. That's how I feel. That's what I'm looking forward to when this journey of mine, current journey, is over. Is that'd be an incredible piece of heaven to have all of that
Wouldn't
going
it?
on. Yeah.
It'd just be so peaceful. But in the meantime, my cats really help me. They've been really they're really fun. They're cat dogs.
Talk to me about spirit animals. If you've interviewed so many people, um, you're even if you haven't experienced it yourself, you've probably talked to somebody about it. Talk about spirit animals and their connection with spirit, because when my dogs were here, and even outside, I've got paranormal activity outside the home. I know the cats are into it. They see things, they react to things. My dogs always did in the house. Nothing violent, nothing scary. And I used to give tours of a pet cemetery, because here in Vegas, people can put in their will to be buried with their dogs, but you can't put in your will to have your dogs buried with you in a people cemetery. So this one
Makes
pet
no sense.
cemetery, there's some people that are buried there. So I would give tours because it's haunted off the charts there, and I would take my dogs there to play with spirit animals and stuff. But talk to me about, if in your humble opinion, if you do believe the spirit animals come back, and the living ones, how they may or may not interact with spirit.
You know, we've had so many stories on Real Ghost Stories, and I'm going to do an episode on the Grave Talks about experiences with animals that have passed. And there's been so many people. I was talking with someone just this week who was telling me about she lost her dog, and it was a week or two after he passed. She's in bed, felt her dog jump up on the bed, do the circling around like they do, and laid down. But obviously, it wasn't her dog. And I think that's so interesting because that's that kind of, when your pet jumps on the bed, it's the cat jumping on the bed versus the dog. You know where the dog sleeps. You know how the dog circles around and lays down. And there's so many stories. That's why I want to do an episode just talking about animal experiences. I had a cat once who passed away, and I love Rottweilers. I think animals do see spirits, Michelle. I really do.
She's got 6 of them.
I had a Rottweiler, Lily. She was a love of my life. She was the best, sweetest dog. But my cat passed away. I was in the kitchen making dinner, doing dishes. I don't remember what I was doing. But you know how when you're a million miles away and you hear something? Well, I heard my cat, where I fed her, was up on a table. So my Rottweiler went and get her food. And so
Yes.
I heard her jump off of the table, which is a really distinct sound. And I said, Rita, that was her name, Rita. And I go, Rita, what are you doing? And then I turned around to talk to her and go give her some love. And then it hit me. She's dead. Like, I don't know what I just heard. But I think I heard her. I think it was like her way of saying, hey, I'm still here. Or even my dog Buddy, who I lost last year. I came in the house one day for lunch before I was able to talk paranormal all day, every day. But I came in my house for lunch, and in the kitchen, of all places, was like a chewy bone, like a little rawhide bone. He hadn't had one like that for a long time. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it got there. I'm like, even if my cat got it, where did it come from? I have carpeting, so there's nothing anywhere. So I don't know where the bone came from. So I put it up and I keep it because I'm like, obviously, I think he wanted me to see it. Like, hey, I'm still here. Here's my bone. It was just, so I think there's so many people have had experiences like that. And I just think that they can still be around. But I think the same with people. I don't think animals and people are any different. I don't think everyone, when they die, they're going to be there, but other people are. I don't. So there's people who I know who have passed that I've never had an experience with, and other people who I have had experiences with. So I'm like, why them and not them? So but I think it's all the same, that same energy that animals.
It's funny that you bring that up, the cat, because I had a woman. who called me and said, my next door neighbor couldn't take care of her cat any longer. And so she gave the cat to me. And then the cat got really sick, and I had to take her in to have her euthanized. And the cat was looking right in my eyes at the moment that she passed. And as soon as I got home, I could hear the cat everywhere in the house. And at night, hear the little pitter patter of her feet cross the carpet on the floor, jump up on the armoire or the dresser, then onto the bed, come up, and she could feel the cat kneading on her. She said, "I want this cat to cross over. Can you help me?" So I said, "Well, meet me at the pet."
Oh.
I go, "Does the cat go everywhere with you?" To the store, in the truck, in the car, everywhere. So I said, "Well, get the cat, jump in the car, meet me at the pet cemetery." I figured there's so many spirit animals there. She'll make a friend. She'll stay. And we did that. We walked all over, and as soon as she got in the car and she was driving home, my cell starts ringing. She goes, it's back in the truck. It's on my shoulder right now, purring in my ear. I'm all, well, I don't know what else to do for you. I'm sorry, but at least you know what it is. And eventually, when it's time to go, the cat will go. But I'm thinking of another thing I want to ask you real quick here. And this is silly because it's going to start with me talking about an old TV show. But you talk about so many people. You've talked to so many people in this field. Um, it was an old. Do you remember this old episode from the original Twilight Zone? It's this old woman. She's a widow, and she's pretty much bedridden. She's got a home hospice caregiver, like a maid, that takes care of her. But late at night, she starts receiving these what she thinks are prank phone calls, and
Gosh,
the
I'm trying to
calls.
remember that episode because I've watched all of them.
The calls start with just silence, then breathing later on. Then the calls graduate to some moaning, some groaning. Then the calls start. Someone is saying her name, and she eventually realizes she thinks it's her dead husband. She kind of blows it off, and it's time to go to the cemetery to visit his grave. And when they arrive, she notices that something had broken the telephone wire that hung on a pole above the grave, and when the line fell, it landed on his grave. And so I'm thinking about, I've had people in real life tell me of having incidents like that, and every time I would take people to these pet cemetery for tours, a lot of them would try to hold these EVP sessions by putting, their tape recorder on the top of the headstone or on the ground right by there. Um, you hear about a lot of, and I'm thinking of the movie Poltergeist, where the grandmother would talk to the little girl on the little toy children's play phone. What do you think about spirit communication in terms of that? Do you think that's possible?
With someone who's passed on communicating with you? Yes.
In that way with like phones or electronics or things like that?
I definitely think it's possible because it seems like there's so many, especially electronics. You hear so many stories of people with TVs turning on and off and lights turning on and off, like electrical issues. And then after a while, they just stop or whatever. But I definitely think electronics, you can, and it's weird, like talking about paranormal things all day. I'll have the weirdest things happen some days. Just like the other day, I was doing a Zoom meeting, and all of a sudden, my hands aren't touching anything. The Zoom meeting just closed on its own. She didn't do it. I didn't do it. And we get back. I jump back on. She jumps back on. And she said, every time I get to that point in the story, something weird happens. And it was about a book she'd written about someone who had passed away and haunted people. And so it was really interesting. So I definitely think with electronics, that can be something. I definitely think you can communicate with people once they've passed.
Well, I see all these people have so many different ways to do it that when someone comes out and says, "No, this is really, get my ghost box because it is actually the only one out there that you'll be able to talk to ghosts with." But then I talk to people who they have this old TV that's 30 years old and it doesn't get any channels, but they'll turn it on, and while it's doing its white noise thing on no channel, they can do like a real time EVP session with an old TV, and then you hear about people doing it with like old phones and things of that nature. There's so many different ways that I tell people every day, I don't know anything. One day we'll all have the answers, and you and me will be having this conversation again in heaven one day and laughing then about what we'll know that we don't know now. But the spirits know, and they will find a way. And there is no one way. And I just you nailed it earlier in the show when you said, um, look for take a deep breath, take a step back, relax, let it happen, look for the signs. And when you do that and you take the blinders off and you start opening your mind to the possibilities, that's when the communication comes.
Mhm. Mhm. And and it's not ever going to happen on demand for most of us. I think there are people who definitely have better communications with the dead, but I think there's certain people who will communicate if you're open to it. And I think that my dad has definitely communicated with me. I There was a boyfriend I had who was killed in a car accident. We did a whole episode on the real ghost stories years ago about it, and he came to me. It was a very weird experience because it actually lasted over several days,
Wow.
and he came with a message that he needed his brother to have a message. And I'm not sitting here telling you I talk to dead people. I'm not, like, I've had a lot of experiences, but I don't just turn it on and off. And it was like, I all of a sudden I'm like, I need to paint this painting and give it to his brother. I don't paint.
I've never
And
heard anything like that before. Do
yeah.
you? Am I overstepping my boundaries
Oh,
asking you to
ask me
share
anything.
that story?
Yeah, so he had passed away in a car accident, and we had been on and off for 5 years, and then finally it was off. And I told him in no uncertain terms, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm done, 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 done. And then he called me out of the blue and said, "It's back when we have voice answering machines." And he left me a message, and he said, "Please listen to this message. Don't delete it." So I did, and he said he wanted to talk to me, and so I waited a day, and then I'm like, let's talk. I'm open to it. And so we ended up dating again, and 3 weeks it was amazing, and we had fun, and it was great. And then he died in a car accident while I was out of town. And so it was very unfinished. By the time I got back, they'd had the service, and so nobody had a cell phone. Nobody knew where I was. I was at my sister's, and so it was really weird. And I went to a kind of a party wake thing they had for him, and I went in the bathroom, and I remember walking in being so excited that there was nobody in there because I needed a minute.
Yeah.
And I went into the stall. I didn't even have to go. And I went into the stall just to kind of, it was overwhelming. I was overwhelmed. And it was the weirdest thing. I felt him walk in, and I was like, oh my God, he's here. And so at that event, there's a girl who had some really great pictures of him, and she's like, I'll make copies. And so she sent them to me, and I got them. And then it was just as overwhelming. It just consumed me. I was like, I've got to paint this painting. I've got to get it to his brother. And I'm going to paint it on Friday and Saturday night. It can dry on Sunday. And on Monday, I'm going to give it to him. And it was like obsessive. And the girls I worked with were like, you're going to do what? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to paint this painting. And so I sketched it out, and I kept that one. I still have that. And I painted the painting, and I took it to work on Monday, and I brought it in, and I'm like, here it is. And the girls were like, oh my God, I can't believe you actually did it. I'm like, I told you I have to do this. And so now I'm going to go call his brother. So I called him, and he had called in sick that day. And 10 minutes later, he called me up, and he said, I had the weirdest feeling like I needed to call into work. And then I got a message from you. So I said, okay, this is going to be weird. And so I took a deep breath, and I said, I have something to tell you. And you might think this is weird, but just hear me out. And I said, I have something for you from Doug. And he said, oh, and like there was silence, and it was this real awkward. And I'm like, okay, I know you think I'm weird. And he goes, no, 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 no. I don't think you're weird. He goes, I'm shocked because I went to a psychic. Her name was Carol Ann. My name's Carol Ann. And he went to a psychic, and the psychic told him that his brother would be sending him something. And I was like, whoa. I've got it. And so he came over that night, and it was very interesting. Like, when I was driving home that day with the painting on my front seat of my car, I was like, "Oh, I've got to write this on the back of the painting." And I did. I To this day, I think a week later, I can't tell you what I wrote on it, but it was really
So
important.
you don't draw? You don't paint or draw?
No, I did in high school, but this I was in
You
my
you
30s.
did you feel there was
I
some
felt
spirit
him.
guidance there with
I felt
doing the
him.
painting?
Yeah, I felt him, and when I did it and I got to his eyes, and so he was like, right, we're looking at each other, and I was like, it was overwhelming at that moment, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
he is here. He was there in my house 100%. But I know, looking back on it, he needed me. And I don't think he ever knew he needed me for what he needed me for, but he needed me because it was just him and his brother, and they were really close. They were the only 2 siblings. So he needed me because I was the one who could help his brother. So when his brother was over that night, and like, there was a necklace in the picture, and I wasn't going to put the necklace in the picture. And then it was like in my head, it's like, you have to put the necklace in. So I told his brother guy, I don't know what the importance about that necklace is, but it is. And then he's like, oh my God, there's this friend and this long story, and I can't wait to show him because that necklace made it in this painting. And I said, well, let him see it because I know that was important. And then at one point in the conversation, he said something, and I said, turn that painting around. And then he saw whatever it was I wrote on the back. Obviously, that message was never for me because it went out of my brain really fast
Yeah.
after that. And it answered the question he had. And it was something about moving on and being okay, and how Randy needed to move on. And I don't really remember now. It's just the weirdest thing. You think you would remember that, but it wasn't my message. It was for him. And so it was just, and he put him in his car and he drove off that night. And I knew that was it. And I could feel him leave with that painting.
It's funny you
So,
talk
I mean,
about
that's a
mess.
pretty
Yep.
big, I don't think everybody gets that kind of,
Well,
but
it
it was,
reminds
I
me of
needed it.
stories you hear when people talk about this would blow me away if it happened to me. But you hear about people like they get a message, a voicemail or a text message, or sometimes I've talked to people that have gotten a phone call from someone. They've talked for a little bit, then the phone call, goodbye, I'll talk to you later, and then get a phone call from someone else that person had passed away
I've heard of
a couple
that.
hours prior to that
Yeah.
phone call or the text message or the voicemail. That would blow me away.
Yeah. And this was, I think I needed it because I needed the closure. And so it gave me this kind of time that I felt like I spent with him. And then there was one dream I had several weeks after that. And he came to me in the dream, and I was so excited. It was a total visitation dream, but I was so excited to see him. And then he said he had to go. And I'm like, don't go, don't go. And he says, I have to go. And that was that. I've dreamt about him since, but I haven't had a visitation dream. But I felt like it was him coming to me saying, now it's time for me to go. And it was it was really a kind of I mean, how could it not be a life-changing experience? It makes you really look at things differently, you know?
Let me ask you this question. I just saw somebody sent me an article. They just did some survey. I don't know who did the survey. I didn't really pay attention, but I did read the article. Very interesting about vengeful ghosts. And what I found interesting about the article was that so many people are, I'll go ghost hunting, but no, I'm not going to go to a place where the demonic may be there, or I could never be a deliverance minister or an exorcist. That's too scary. And I don't want to freak anybody out here, but spirits can be scary too. But this article was about vengeful spirits. And they found worldwide the majority of these vengeful spirits turn out to be women spirits, which I thought was funny.
Are they
Um,
Karens? All these Karens.
but what do you think about the vengeful spirit thing? It's like my mom told me when I was seeing spirit when I was young, she would say, listen, I don't know how she knew this, but she said, you're going to see a lot of ghosts in your life. They're just people that don't have a body any longer. But if they show themselves to you, they either they have a message or they need help with something. And if you can bring yourself to ask them what it is they want, and they're able to communicate that with you, if you can help them, try. If you can't, be honest with them, tell them you can't help them and that you'd like them to stop bothering you. And 99.9% of the time, they'll stop bothering you. But now with vengeful spirits, unless you're the one that excuse my French, were the one that pissed it off, you can be like, get be collateral damage from being around this vengeful spirit that's just wants vengeance so bad for something that you happen to be the one that they're taking their anger out on because you happen to be there. What do you think about the vengeful spirit and how dangerous a vengeful spirit can or can't be? And if you were in that situation, how would you handle dealing with a vengeful spirit?
That's tough because don't you think in this world there are people who are just like that? So when they pass over, is that really going to change? It's like I would like to think once they die, it's like, oh, here's all of the things I should have known. But maybe they just die and they're still just so pissed off and and they're mad about this or that because there's people who just don't get over things in this world. Is like, come on, let it go. Because we all know those people.
Especially in the spirit world, you'd think once you get there and you realize the possibilities that nothing's binding you to anything that was binding you before. You don't feel no physical pain any longer. You're not hungry. You're not tired. Uh, you just the joy of not you're free, especially if are see your loved one and you're crossing over to heaven and you're going to that different realm and that new spiritual world.
Do you
Why
think
hold
that
on
they
to
get
all that?
but do you think maybe some people, once they pass over, there's this anger, there's this need for, um, they felt they were wronged or something, and these people, not they might not have ever been wronged, but in their head they were. So when you pass over, does that magically go away? Or are those people kind of tied to the earthly beings a little bit because they can't let it go? They never were able to let things go in life. Then they move on and they're still hanging on. And I just think wouldn't it be nice just to at some point let it go? Is nothing you can fix about it now, but I just think that there could be those who can't. And
Well,
so
that's why
I
I
don't know
get
how you
I
deal with that. You would know better than I would,
well, I
obviously,
always
but
advise people. I don't really think it's wise to like. I I know a ton of paranormal investigators that just do it to do it, and that's cool. I mean, they're passionate about that. They're trying to find proof of life after death, and they're really get into going ghost hunting at these allegedly really spirit infested locations. But like the old abandoned insane asylums or hospitals, there's going to be a lot of
oh
spirit there that is just as confused in death as they are at
yeah.
life. And they may not even know how to cross over. So now they remain. And so you're not going to get much out of that spiritual communication other than chaos. And so I always advise people, don't go to those kinds of places unless you want to go and really work on just trying to take some really gifted psychic people with you that can just envelop the place in nothing but love and light and try and get these, you know, all every guardian angel that isn't on a coffee break at that moment to come down and
Right.
help these souls cross over. Unless you're there to do that, I would stay away from places like that. Um, in the short time we have left, you are so um,
They did.
passionate
She's
about
right.
this.
Michelle's right. They did not forgive. That's so true. I think forgiveness is big, and those some people just can't.
What
So
really
I'm
puts
sorry.
you on this? That's okay. What really puts you on this path? You're so passionate and good at what you do. I know you've
Thank you.
commented spirit have followed you all your life. Um, in the short time we have left, talk to me about that and what actually got you on this path to continue doing what you're doing. Something must have been really
So my
just
paranormal origin story is
yeah.
that So I do have a paranormal origin story. When I was in the first grade, we moved into a haunted house. And I think when you're that young, I think at any age, you live in a haunted house. It's a lot. And I do not live in a haunted house now. I really feel like it's loving energy around me, which is exactly where I want to live. I don't like living like that. But it was hard because, you're I was in first grade. So I was so young and these weird things are happening in the house. And the weird thing is because I was so young, I don't remember moving in the house. I don't remember my first paranormal experience. I just know it happened. That's where I was living. And so there was something that was just dark in that house and that dark energy that you can feel. And I can feel that to this day. So I can walk in someplace and I'm like, this is not good for me. It's kind of like when you get around somebody who, and we all know those people or have known them, maybe you worked with them or something, they're just negative. They bring the room down or they're mean. You get bad vibes from that person. That's what I feel. It's like on the back of my neck, like, oh, something's in here. And so, but when I was a kid, we'd hear someone walking around at night. They'd go up and down the stairs and there's nobody walking around at night, and real negative and a particular bathroom of the house. It had a little attic off of that bathroom. So that's kind of where I think everything started. And whatever it was, we walk out of the bathroom or into the bathroom and in the whole house, like just weird things would happen all the time. And I remember one time we had gone away for the weekend and my best friend Brenda lived next door and she had a really cool, it was like in the 70s. Her house was built in the 70s and it was like really cool, awesome new house. And mine was the old haunted house built in 1906. And she said, and she knew it was haunted. She'd been over, she'd had experiences herself. And so we were all out of town and she says, when you were gone this weekend, someone was in your room. And she saw somebody from her living room turn on the light in my room and sit on my bed. And there was nobody. There was no intruder. It was just that's what it was. It would do those kinds of things. And which is really crazy when the neighbors seeing your hauntings in your house. And it went till the minute we moved out and we were all loaded up in the station wagon and we were looking at the back of the house and we're all facing it. And my brother and sister had a bedroom and they had these little cowboy and Indian curtains and they were shut. And you know how like when somebody takes their hand and they look out and you see that curtain just kind of move like that? That curtain did that. And I was like, I am so glad I'm moving from this house. But to this day, I can, and my last house I lived in, I always said it was not a haunted house. I still don't believe it was a haunted house at all. But I had a lot of really strange things happen in that house. Now, why I don't think it was haunted, I don't know exactly, but it didn't feel like it had a bad energy to it. But sometimes I think a shadow person just walks by.
Yeah.
And sometimes somebody just walks into your house. And I don't know how that happens, but I think it can happen without it being a haunted house.
And I also think everybody thinks you have to be psychic to attract spirit. And I don't, I'm not on that side of the fence. I do
I
believe
agree.
it can happen to anybody. For some reason, you may just be, for some reason, you might look different to the spirit world, and there's something about you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be psychic. There's something about you that attracts them, like that mosquito
Right.
light in the back porch, and they just kind of gravitate around you, and it's just something that you got to deal with. And people that struggle not being able to deal with it, they become very emotionally unstable because they've fought it all their life rather than just relaxing and let it happen and taking control over it. They let that situation control them, and they don't have such a great life.
Right. And I just think that too, sometimes when you've had that experience, it happened as a child, I think it's easier for it to get through to you as a child. Um, and so once that happens and you live with that for a long time, it kind of opens that door a little bit. And I think they can sense that they can get through to you. That's why I think my boyfriend Doug, he could get through to me, and someone needed to help his brother. That's the one thing I know he would have wanted, was someone to help his brother. And he needed to get a message to his brother. And for some reason I was the one he needed, which is why I think he reached out to me. I don't think he knew he was going to die. It was a car accident, but sometimes you get that kind of premonition. And so I don't know.
Well, listen, did you have fun? Will you come back?
Oh my God, anytime, yes. Because I'm no longer scared of you.
Well, you know I love you and respect you. I think you're so cool.
That was
And
just so funny because I'd never talked to an exorcist. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to embarrass myself. But
I'm
no,
gonna send
I'm
you
glad
some
you're
dates after we get done, and I look at my date book. I'm gonna get you back here because an hour wasn't long enough with you. But I want to sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking an hour out of your busy Friday to hang out with me and my Parafam family. And
it's
I
so
want you to
fun.
have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful, wonderful remainder of your Friday evening and your weekend. And God bless you. And I'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, Carol. I'll see you later. Bye bye. Carol Hughes. I love her. She's very cool. Guys, she is the host, executive producer and host of Real Ghost Stories Online and The Grave Talks. Check out those two podcasts. They've got a website, a couple of websites. You can find these podcasts just about anywhere you listen to a podcast. You can find Real Ghost Stories Online and The Grave Talks. Carol Hughes. Alrighty. The church I belong to, USOCC, United States Old Catholic Church. If there's, you know, if you're interested in Bible study, which is every Wednesday and Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m. Pacific, or night prayer, which is every weeknight, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific, go to usocc.org or bishopjameslong.com. You'll find the links to those, and you're welcome to join us. Um, what else do I want to say to you guys? I love Adrian Clayton. I love Zach Clayton. They are my co-producers. Thank you so much for producing my show. I couldn't do it without you. Go to Zach's website, communitypayitforward.us. Just go there and be pleasantly surprised. That's all I'm going to say to you. Next week's guest. Oh, you're going to love her. That's a best of on Monday night, a Monday ministry memory. But next Friday, the 22nd, Camille James Harmon. If you've never met Camille James Harmon, extremely talented, award winning actress who is a big time ufologist, UFO experiencer, and used to write for UFO magazine. So that'll be next week. Thank you to Things Network. Thank you to Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment. Thank you to Skeleton Key Network. Thank you to PACT, little p, capital ACT, Podcasting for All Coming Together channel, for all these networks simulcasting my show. God bless you for that. God bless each and every one of you for tuning into my show, because without you guys, I don't have a show. And it's bad joke time. I'm going to pull a bad joke that one of you sent in out of this haunted carnival barker hat. It's my poor attempt to put a smile on everybody's face before I say good night. How much does the heaviest skeleton weigh? A skeleton. Good night.
Before you go through your stuff, hey, I just want to say, great fan reaction. Okay, everybody, this show, y'all kept me really busy, and I appreciate that. Um, uh, way to keep the engagement going, everything going. You guys did great. So thank you all, and have a great weekend. Skeleton.
Hey, somebody sent that into me. Yeah, guys, I love my paranormal ministry family. You guys are great, and I apologize for not knowing what I'm doing and paying attention more to the chat room and engaging. I'm just so into talking to my guests. I only have an hour with them, and I love and respect all my guests, and I just get so into them that I don't really look at the chat room much. But it's not, don't take it personal, because I don't know what I'm doing. But God bless you all for tuning in anyway. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And on that note, good night, Danny. Good night, Jack. Good night, Dog. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. I love you all. God bless you all. Peace.